Hey, here are 5 stupid things I've noticed about the pro-life movement. It's not interested in debate. Full disclosure up front, I support a woman's right to have an abortion, and I think abortion should be legal, safe, and easily available to those who want it. So there. Now then, if you happen to live in a country other than mine where abortion is a controversial subject, your mileage may vary, but the most important thing to realize about the abortion debate here in the United States is that it's not a debate. In a debate, two sides talk to each other. They respond to each other's claims and arguments. In our abortion debate, the two sides mostly just shout slogans. And they're not even shouting at each other. They're shouting at themselves. And they're using indirect and misleading language. Since they're not usually talking to the other side, the reason for all that shouting is, I assume, to persuade any undecided folks who might hear to join up on their side. That's why activists have devised ways of talking about abortion without ever having to actually use the word abortion. Unless they want to. I mean, some seem perfectly comfortable with it, but many are squeamish, which is why we have terms like pro-life in the first place. Just think of how loaded that term is. Are those who identify as pro-life implying that people on the other side of the argument are anti-life? Well, and for that matter, are those who identify as pro-choice implying that those on the other side of the argument from them are anti-free will? Well, some might be, actually. Crisis pregnancy centers. Speaking of misleading language, let's talk about the speciously named Crisis Pregnancy Centers, or CPCs, also sometimes known as Pregnancy Resource Centers. Many people have no idea that these places are not doctor's offices. These are ardently pro-life operations which exist for the sole purpose of talking women out of having abortions. A very few may offer some extremely basic forms of medical care like pregnancy testing or sonograms, but most offer no medical services of any kind, including qualified counseling. And CPCs are notorious for lying to the women who come to them for help, exaggerating the medical and emotional risks of having an abortion. Robert J. Pearson, one of the founders of the CPC movement, once said that his opposition to abortion was a struggle against Satan, and he described women who want to have abortions as killers. Killers who have no right to information that would help them to kill their babies. You have no right to the truth if learning the truth would enable you to do something I don't want you to do. Many of these operations are closely affiliated with fundamentalist churches, needless to say. Protests using provocative and deceptive images. There's an abortion clinic in Hagerstown. I drive by it occasionally. Sometimes there are protesters gathered outside its entrance. Older white people, mostly men. And some of them are holding signs with gory photographs of aborted fetuses enlarged to poster size. It's done in an attempt to emotionally manipulate a vulnerable person into doing not what she has decided to do for the best interests of herself and perhaps her family, but what the person holding the sign, who knows nothing about her, wants her to do. It's a cheap, dirty, disgraceful tactic, and it goes hand in hand with number 5 on the list, hypocritical selective empathy. Ever notice how many people who identify as pro-life are also political conservatives who tend to oppose social welfare programs that aid the poor? One of the most common reasons women opt to terminate pregnancies is because they fear they won't be able to afford to properly raise the child. Conservative pro-lifers who drive that movement and always have will defend with ferocity an unborn child's right to life, and yet will also ignore or minimize the plights of millions of children and their parents who live and suffer in poverty every day. If they redirected the energy they spend bullying women into having children they don't want toward efforts that could actually raise quality of life for those women and for impoverished people in general, just think of the good they could actually do. The hardest part is only picking 5. Catch you next time.